as we all know, English towns not doing great. Really, really not doing great right now. I had the misfortune of going into my hometown the other day, a lovely place in Cheshire called Crewe, and was walking around for a little bit and came across this incredible sight, the Cheshire Halal Meat Centre. I looked into it. People were telling me in the replies, last time it was inspected by a food inspector, 0-star hygiene rating.
Oh, really? Interesting they didn't shut it down, because that, like I covered the other day, that's what happened with the Kenya butchers on the street.
Yes, I've got your video that you posted on your channel, and we're going to take a quick look at that in a moment. But this is a very frequent sight that you can see all across towns in England, which have been completely abandoned to foreign businesses that clearly do not adhere to any kind of standards that you or I would appreciate, for one being halal in the first place, which is a brutal form of slaughter, which I do not approve of.
But look at the buildings on the other side, just shut down.
Yeah. Shut down. There's lots of shops that are shut down. You've got this patchwork road with a little bit of cobblestone just peeking out to remind you that there used to once be a culture here. Yeah. You've got Cheshire Food Store to the left of it, which sells African food, obviously. And back in the day, this street here, I can say from experience, used to have nice businesses down it. It used to be a place where there was lots of nightclubs, lots of venues where you could go and play music. And slowly but surely, they all shut down to be replaced by either nothing or foreign businesses. This is something that you can observe in lots of towns across the country that have been completely abandoned, including Swindon.
Yeah.
And you did this video the other day where you were going around Swindon, kind of doing the Doom tour.
Unfortunately, yes. It was just one of those, because I've been here for 25 years and I've spent a lot of time in Swindon. And it used to be really nice. I know that people like Swindon. It's like, look, I'm not saying that it was like, Kensington Gardens or anything, but like it was just very homely, relaxed. It was personable. There were lots of actual things that you'd want to go to. Like this, where this street is, this was all massive nightclubs. And so every Thursday, Friday and Saturday, this was just heaving, like, thousands of people down these streets. And the whole thing was just a lot nicer than it is now. And I think the same thing that has happened to Cheshire has happened to Swindon, which is essentially when the native population gets diversified, and gets the foreign immigrants landed in the town centre. Well, they just move away, and that means that there's not the foot traffic in the towns to support the old businesses up there.
Well, I think there's a parallel that you can draw with Cheshire and Wiltshire as well, because Crewe is quite like Swindon in that it's the one really bad place in a county that otherwise is still very, very nice. Wiltshire, that's what Swindon is for us. But we have lost so much foot traffic that the council wasted who knows how much money building an enormous multi-storey car park over the past few years, which is so useless that it's shut on Sundays.
So what the thing that really makes me think this is definitely what it is in Old Town in Swindon, most of the businesses there have been there for about 20 plus years. Like I remember the businesses at the north end of Swindon being the same businesses when I met my wife up there, when we first started going out. And so the fact that everything has changed so rapidly down here, but North Swindon, which is the Old Town, is still mostly English. You see the same shops still subsist. So I'm absolutely certain it's about population replacement that is causing this.
Well, go on.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, in my neck of the woods in the West Country, it's very noticeable in small market towns, places like, for instance, Yeovil, right? So Yeovil is an interesting place. Yeovil, that area of Somerset, in the 19th century, then I think something like 75% of all the leather gloves in the world were made in and around Yeovil, right? So it was like a boom town for leather goods. And the leather industry in Yeovil kind of limped on for a long time until the financial crisis, 2008. I mean, for me, my observations, I would say that it's 2008 that really started this. Like these high streets have never recovered from the financial crisis. So, once upon a time, Yeovil had a Starbucks and there was a Topshop, and I mean, they're not high end shops, but
there's something.
They're pretty good.
They're rising affluence. You can see that it's it's associated with that, but then they're empty now. I mean, the premises are all empty. In fact, there are shops in Yeovil that closed down during the pandemic, and they've still got the social restriction boards up and the markings on the floor, the 2-meter markings. So I mean, it's multiple things. I think it's prolonged economic hardship, but also, of course,
well, what the prolonged economic hardship has enabled is for there to be a wealth of open properties that aren't occupied by anybody for foreign businesses to come into. And the funny thing about diversified foreign businesses is that they lead to an incredible lack of diversity in businesses that open in your high street, as seen in this Welsh town, which is Porth, which has a population of about 6,000 people and 13 barber shops, all within a 0.3 mile radius or 6-minute walk from one another. And what this article is talking about, in that there's already 13 here, there's another one attempting to open. And people in the local area are complaining to the planning permission people, saying that you should not allow this application through because we've already got enough barbershops. Trust us, 13 is more than enough for 6,000 people. We're not getting multiple haircuts every single day. I think 1 or 2 would do us fine.
It's interesting though, isn't it? You think, so that's what, let's say roughly one barbershop for every 600 people in that town, right? I bet there's not one doctor for every 600 people in the town.
Point.
Oh, no. Under Tony Blair, there'd be even less.
Yeah, so it's just, I mean, it's crazy, which begs the question actually about the economics of these shops. I mean,
they do a lot of grooming, don't they? So.
Yeah. But I mean, people
get a lot of traffic in them.
Yeah,
they do, and I mean, I've seen people talking about how the police know that these places are fronts for organised crime, in particular for drug trafficking, for money laundering, all that kind of stuff.
Well, it does raise the question in a lot of these towns, like Crewe, like Swindon, like many struggling towns where economic hardships have completely wiped out local businesses in particular. How is it that these businesses, which are already oversaturated, are able to make enough money to pay the rent each month, to pay the electric bills each month? Where are they getting this money from? Because most of the time you walk past, they've not got that many customers in them, and there's only so many times you need a haircut every single month to justify going into them. So that does raise the question. Alongside that, you've got other businesses that tend to pop up, because in this very article it says a recent survey of Porth's town centre conducted in 2024 by the Chamber of Trade found that respondents already noted an overabundance of businesses such as barbershops, beauty parlours, and fast food takeaways. Beauty parlours is one that I always notice. You get lots of nail salons open up around the place. You also get phone shops and vape shops. All of these businesses tend to be run by foreigners, and it makes it very suspect that you never see anybody really using them. But they always open. They're always opening. There's always more opening. Here's the Swindon Advertiser. Just last month, I believe. Yeah. AU Cuts, which I walked past on my lunch break today, opened in March 29th by 2 brothers who were inspired to do so by their father,
Where did they get the money to set this up?
I don't know. They're both like 21, 22 years old.
Yeah, because it costs about 10 grand to set up a business.
I suppose their dad must have given them the money.
I guess
he must have fronted the money for them. And again, many, I'm sure, are legitimate businesses, but lots of them aren't. There's this one. This might be a legitimate business. Barber opens Swindon shop after arriving. Alon's hair studio after arriving in the UK with nothing. Now he worked 10 years to be able to open up his shop and raise the money. So there's an explanation. Okay. But then you get these ones where immigrants worked at Guy's barber shop in Swindon illegally. This is an article from last year, and if you wonder how many of these places save money to pay the bills each month, it's because they're probably not paying their staff members very much. Who knows if the staff are even trained to cut hair in the first place? Because this one, the court heard that the barbershop owner, Guy Awazi, made false Spanish identity cards for two siblings that he was employing who were illegally in the country in the first place. And then there's just more situations like this. Manchester Road, which we've got a short video coming out soon of Josh walking down Manchester Road and just pointing at things and noticing things. Manchester Road, or Little Pakistan, as I like to call it, they had a barber shut down after there were drugs seized in a raid. Officers from Central Swindon South Neighbourhood Policing Team, along with police dog Bracken, who I'm sure is a very good boy, carried out 2 simultaneous raids at A-style barbers down Manchester Road. The raids were carried out in January in relation to money laundering, drug supply, and organised crime, where a significant quantity of drugs, cash, and luxury items were seized.
Contain your surprise.
I know. Big shock, right? So for a long time, the police had known about these. There'd been some reports from the Daily Mail talking about these, and the NCA and other organisations said, yes, we know that a lot, if not most, of these businesses are fronts for organised crime. But there hadn't been anything on the large scale, on a greater scale, done about them. You'd get these individual little raids here and there in local communities, but there was no organised effort to try and stamp down on them under the Tories. But now Labour's in. Boom. Can you believe it? Keir Starmer's Labour government... Under them, all of a sudden, you get a big effort to try and crack down on this, and this was on the front page of the BBC News this morning. You get reports on it, where I will say as well, they do not shy away from the ethnicity of the people who are running these shops, especially the barber shops as well. Multiple references in this one article to most of these being run by Kurds. Not Turks, even if they say they're Turkish barbershops. Most of it is Kurds. So let's read through a little bit of this, eh?
Yeah.
So he says, it starts off by describing one of these raids, saying that they smashed through the back doors of a bright modern barbershop in the market town of Shrewsbury. Of course, it's in a lovely little town like Shrewsbury. Inside, they immediately detained 2 men who we are later told are Kurdish asylum seekers. Both men are later released. It's the first of 6 raids that day where police seize thousands of pounds in cash and illicit vapes. The officers are here with a warrant to search the premises because of suspected money laundering. They say their intelligence also suggests the shop is linked to sale of illicit cigarettes and vapes, illegal immigration, and drug dealing, because one of the things these people like to do is basically sponsor boats to get their new staff to come over the channel so that they don't have to pay them.
Yeah, it's literally their business model, isn't it?
Yes. Detective Inspector Daniel Fenn, on his 9th raid of the week, says that some barbershops such as this are claiming income of £100,000 to £150,000 per month. They aren't, very profitable, and that's probably just the income that they are declaring. So who knows how much else they're making extra on the side. They aren't getting that amount of customers to warrant that amount of money. CCTV and other barbers have been raided has shown that they don't have many customers, so footage of this one will also be examined according to the detective inspector. So that confirms a lot of things that you can just observe walking through the towns, looking into these yourself, is that they don't normally have customers. I've seen people try and excuse it. Aaron Bastani, who flip-flops so often on whether he wants to be based or not, making the excuse, well, you know, in Turkey, it's a very privileged position to be a barber. They've got a great cultural heritage of it. So people love going to them because they know they're going to get a great haircut. I guess that we just don't see them at peak hours then? Well, no, the actual footage of their own shop shows that they're empty 99% of the time. This raid in Shrewsbury was one of 265 carried out across England and Wales last month as part of a crackdown on these high street businesses, often Turkish-style barbers, vape shops, and mini-marts. That's another one. Again, this shop right here, Cheshire Halal Meat Centre, how long do you reckon the staff have been in the country for?
Can't have been that long.
I wonder what their visa situation is looking like right
Probably
now.
less time than the meat, actually.
Yeah. Yeah, judging by the hygiene rating, I bet. But a lot of those mini-mart shops that you see if you go down the high street as well, I'm very suspicious of all of those. Who knows what they're actually keeping in the cellar around back. And you mentioned as well, there was the Kenyan meat shop where they just had raw meat on the floor, and wasn't it rats as well?
Yeah, rats eating the raw meat that was just left on the floor, and it's disgusting.
Well, it's interesting as well, actually, you know, because there was a first wave of this. There was an earlier wave of this, right? The Polski Sklep, you know,
plenty of them.
They're still around. If you go to my one there, you can see.
Yes, yeah, along that.
Yeah, right there.
literally right there.
Krakow, Polski Schlep.
Yeah.
Because that was an early kind of bellwether, I think, of this change. The appearance of these, of these Polish mini marts and Polish shops, and people kind of didn't like it, but there wasn't the same suggestion, I think, of criminality.
Yeah.
No, it was more just the suggestion of they're forming an ethnic enclave in their own little economy where they keep to themselves.
Yeah.
It wasn't necessarily that we looked and thought, oh, they're probably criminals. And in my experience, the criminality of the Poles, if they were criminals who came over here, was they would start claiming benefits and then go back to Poland and keep claiming the benefits. I've known quite a few cases like that. They weren't
administrative corruption.
Yeah, they weren't actively involved in crime in the same way.
Human trafficking and...
Yeah. In the same way these other people were. But carrying on, politicians and members of the public, me, I've been talking about this for at least 2 years now, have raised concerns about many of these businesses which have boomed even while high streets appear to be in decline. The average number of barbers per person in England and Wales has doubled in the past 10 years, according to an analysis by Green Street.
There's something in the water that's making our hair grow faster. Yeah.
I mean, maybe.
Or maybe not.
Yeah,
Maybe not.
Maybe not. Now the National Crime Agency says it has launched the crackdown called Operation Machinize in response to growing intelligence reports that some of these shops are being used for money laundering. Again, any of us could have told you this, but we had 14 years of the Conservatives letting this happen, continually ignoring the problem, downplaying the problem, calling you racist if you brought up the problem, and now we get Labour, and I hate to keep saying this, but they're actually doing something about it.
I mean, the old cliche of the Conservatives failed to conserve anything couldn't be more true, could it?
Yes, but gangs are falsely reporting the proceeds of criminal operations, etc., exactly how you know money laundering already works. Despite these shops operating openly for years on high streets and attracting widespread local suspicion, this is the first coordinated action of its kind by the police, tax and immigration inspectors, and trading standards officers. We were given, the BBC, exclusive access to dozens of raids carried out by Greater Manchester and West Mercia police. During the operation, police targeted a series of linked mini-marts in Rochdale that they suspect are fronts for illegal activity, staffed by Kurds, Iraqi and Iranian asylum seekers. Officers later said some of the staff were working in the UK illegally. I'm sure it was more than just some of them. Most of them. A cannabis farm was found in Lee and over 150 plants seized. Also found during raids across Greater Manchester were brown powder believed to be heroin, vials of testosterone, nitrous oxide, Xanax tranquilizer, and the machete.
Oh, yeah.
Big surprise. But I thought the government had banned those. How'd that slip through the cracks?
It was at the mosque, Harry.
Oh, of course. No, that's in Stoke. That's in Stoke. Perhaps there's a network. 35 people were arrested. 55 suspected illegal immigrants were questioned. 3 potential victims, poor victims of modern slavery, were identified. Bank accounts and assets worth over £1 million were later frozen, and 40 grand in cash was seized. And that's just across Greater Manchester and West Mercia, which is a relatively small part of the country taken in its whole. So this is just going to be wide scale across the entire country, wherever these businesses open up. So again, if you've walked past these businesses in your own high street and said, how the hell are they still open when everything else is closed? Your suspicions are confirmed, mate. Legitimate barbers have said they want to see a registration scheme and crack down on unscrupulous operators, and the NCA estimates that £12 billion in cash is laundered in the UK every year, some of it through these criminal front organisations. Their numbers appeared to surge as shop vacancies grew in the wake of the pandemic, as we've already discussed, creating this opening for the criminal gangs. So if you didn't hate the government enough for locking you down for 2 years, destroying the economy, opening the floodgates for the Boris wave, also it allowed for this to come in at an even greater scale than had already happened.
So just let me... So basically, there are a bunch of drug-running, human trafficking gangs that have bought up our high streets to slush their illegitimate money through in order to continue to make millions and millions of pounds in profit. And this is why we live in a dystopia now. Because these are now free, because lawful, legitimate businesses were shut down by the government and, of course, are unable to reopen because the foot traffic is just simply not there to sustain them.
Yeah.
Am I summarizing this correctly?
That sounds pretty fair.
Yep.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. And again, on the fact that these people sponsor their own people to come across the channel as well. They point out here, there was in 2023 the conviction by the NCA of one Iranian-Kurdish barbershop owner, Hewa Rahimpour, who was using his shop in London as a base for a criminal organisation which smuggled 10,000 people into the UK over the boats. And that's just one guy in one shop.
It's so bad.
Yeah.
And it's worth remembering as well, of course, you know, the pandemic didn't just benefit these people. Okay, it totally undercut the middle classes, it totally undercut the hard-working small business owners, but it transferred their wealth to the wealthiest people as well, to the mega billionaires. I mean, I don't want to sound too much like a Marxist or anything, but it's true, you know. So what we've got actually is we've got this crazy series of restrictions that hand the high street to organised crime, and also a large part of the markets of the businesses that are shut down to Google and Amazon and, you know, all of these multinationals, enormous corporations. I mean, it's
the definition of a tyranny.
It's an unbelievable betrayal.
And we wonder why we live in a dystopia. We wonder why the country looks like it's falling apart. Well, of course it is. Why the criminals are not going to spend any of their ill-gotten gains upkeeping the front of their shop or making sure that the streets look.
Why they're hideous.
Exactly, it's why they're hideous.
Again, I think it's important to note as well, even if these businesses were all legal, were all profitable, and not fronts for organised crime, which some of them aren't, they are still hideous eyesores that sell absolute tat that have no place on our high streets. As far as I'm concerned, our high streets should be there for businesses that deserve to be there, including something that you see less and less, actually locally run independent shops by Brits selling whatever it is that they are specialists at, butchers, people who create furniture, all sorts of things. You can do that, and it's a shame to see that vanish because it takes away the local character of these towns and replaces it with this homogenous mess.
I mean, I interviewed a bunch of people on Swindon streets the other day, and one of the recurring points that they made that I hadn't really thought about was that there was no shops in Swindon. And the thing is, there are lots of shops in Swindon. They're just, when they're not barbers or vape shops, they're weird sort of like Bangladeshi luggage shops where like there are at least
like the one that was down the high street that had a speaker shouting at you all day, right?
Exactly. And eventually, I guess they took the hint. It was literally some Indian accent, closing sale. It's just all day into this, and I guess enough dirty looks made them turn off. But the point is, there's never anyone in there, and all they seem to sell is luggage. And it's like, okay, but what? How? And this took over the top man, you know. So
it was absurd. You walked past it, the entire front of the shop was just suitcases.
Yeah. And I hadn't
buying these.
I hadn't really noticed these until these people were pointing out that, look, we were standing by the Brunel statue. Is that, look, there's two there. It's like one next to another. It's like, how are these? So I'm assuming that these must also be part of this sort of black economy, because no one's buying that much goddamn luggage.
I think the evidence is showing that it's a safe assumption to make.
Right.
And while it's nice that this is being done, finally some action seems to be taken. It's only a half measure. Cracking down on it needs to crack down harder, because they point out at the end of the article, so far only 10 of the shops that were raided in this have been shut down. The majority of the shops that the BBC visited were back up and running within minutes of the police leaving. So you need to crack down, you need to crack down hard, you need to shut these places down. There needs to be criminal charges put against these people if they are criminals, and the people who shouldn't be put in this country in the first place, who are being employed by them, should be deported immediately.
I mean, what's important as well, I think, and this is something that's come through with the grooming gang scandal as well, is, I mean, these people are clannish people. They're cousin marriers, right?
Yeah.
And so
that's a very polite way of putting
it. That's me being tactful. So this shouldn't just be treated as individuals. It's an individual vape shop. I mean, there are networks, there are familial networks, not only within the UK, but also actually stretching back to the Middle East.
And clearly, if one shop is able to get 10,000 people in, who are these contacts that he has to get them over?
Yeah, I mean, this has to be treated actually as like an international crime.
Foreign interference.
Yeah, yes. I mean, if you wanted to go Trump, you could designate them as alien enemies and say, we're gonna deploy the full force of the British state and the military against them. I mean, that's what you would.
Oh, but what would the ECHR have to say about that?
Well, quite. Yeah.
But that is what needs to be done. And hopefully, seeing as they seem to be starting to take action, more action will be taken. And one day, perhaps England will have nice high streets and towns that you can live in again.
If you would like to watch the full uncut version that is also uncensored, head on over to lotuseaters.com to find out more.